And we're on YouTube. Cool. Dan, are we waiting more people from your team?
I do not know. I just gave them notice about the meeting. So I can't say for sure. I'd say let's just go, and if they join, that's fine. If not, it's okay.
Yeah, okay. So I haven't heard from Abit, so I don't know if he'll join, and Netusa won't be there, so I guess let's just go. Okay, so DevSync. So this week has mostly been about testing for me. I've done the update, well, these past 2 weeks, I guess. I've added the update proposal plus the new fee structure for the proposals, and I did all of the unit tests for them. Found a slight issue with it, which I think we'll discuss today. Yeah, we will. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. I've been looking at HiveMind a lot, trying to figure out how to use it with the RocksDB or not. And also planning on the whole modular approach.
Okay. Are you still there, Martin? Hello?
Oh yeah, I was just leaving you space to talk.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I just, I saw you're muted, and I was like, oh, he's muted now. Okay. As far as what we're doing, mostly a lot of testing on the blockchain side at this point. So the blockchain code we've somewhat frozen from our point of view. I mean, we haven't incorporated everything, but we've mostly merged stuff in. We're getting very close to where we want to merge it back into the main repo. But just getting tests to pass as we keep bringing in things in, we find something goes wrong. So sometimes it's just we run the tests just don't get set up quite right, unfortunately. And when we run these tests, they can take quite a long time to run. So if there's a problem, we don't know for 8 hours or a day sometimes. So in fact, one of the things, of course, we've done is speed up some of those tests quite a bit. We had one good data point this weekend, which was, I think we had one test. I don't know if I can remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I think it was reindexing one of the larger reindexes that took, I want to say 3.8 days, and it's now down to like 5 or 6 hours, I believe, if that's the numbers I have in my head, but I have to double check them. So that was pretty nice. And a lot of that's from some of the data that we've taken out of the consensus state and moved into HiveMind. And so that really, and we still don't have all the numbers of just how much improvement that's going to be, but it at least that good. So that was pretty nice to see. The memory, we've also seen the memory performance I guess I haven't reported on that yet, but we've had about a 33% reduction in memory, state memory is part of that as well. It's not just that one change, but that's one of the biggest changes was removal of the comment data from state. Beyond that, we've also had to make changes to HiveMind. We've been making 2 types of changes to HiveMind. Well, maybe 2 or 3 or 4, but 2 of the main ones. One has been the optimization of the queries, and that's gone very, very well. We also are changing where we're getting the blacklist data. That's just about complete. That's kind of in final testing Friday, and I guess probably today. So that's about done. And that's also, between those 2, that's really tremendous increases. Sometimes for some of the queries that were taking 3 or 4 seconds, or even upwards of 10 or 12 or 17, everything's down now pretty much to 100 milliseconds or less, pretty much. So again, pretty substantial speed increases there. And the other thing we're having to do in HiveMind, of course, is we're moving some of the comment data is moving in there. So that's one of the last things we're really closing the circle on right now, is we're having to add new API calls to allow us to get the HiveMind data out of Hive-D into HiveMind and store it in tables there. So that's just kind of in that was being developed this weekend, and just I need to get a report on where it's at, but I think we're probably close to done on that as well. This weekend and a couple of days before. Let's see what else. So I guess the other thing, you've probably seen my posts about the decentralized blacklist stuff. That's part of the blacklist change I mentioned, to get that data more decentralized. So we've added we've added new functionality to the existing muting following operation to allow someone to indicate that they want accounts put on their blacklist, and also to allow someone to indicate they want to follow a blacklist. I think everybody probably read that post and probably has an idea about that, but we can talk about that if anybody had any questions about it in terms of what needs to be done, and on the front ends especially. That's pretty much it. I'd like to give some firm statistics, numbers on what we've got as far as performance, but I'd like to have the final numbers from the guys rather than the earlier numbers I have right now. So I'll probably report that in a post or something next couple days. I haven't checked this, haven't had a chance to check with everybody just to get a firm date as far as when they're ready, but I believe it's some early this week. I would say we should have the test net up at this point. I guess that's about it for now. We can talk more about that as we go.
When you mentioned the improvement on HiveMind on queries, are you saying about like regular queries or on the sync process?
Mostly on regular queries, because that's where most of the performance is. The sync itself isn't too bad in terms of performance at all. It's been quite reasonable. But on the server side, there have been some queries that even if they were okay in average time. So we have a couple different metrics we use for measuring the performance of a query, and I don't know if I'll post up a spreadsheet about those as part of the data. So we have a list of literally all the Juicy calls. That's where we get the first data. We watch the times. Juicy gives us some profiling data on each call. And so we look at the average time it takes. We look at its worst case time. And we also do things like total time, like how much time is spent by HiveMind on any single call. And then we also have how much time is spent by the fast version of those calls, and how much time is spent by those calls when they take over a second. And that's some of the numbers we use to sort of measure, like, how much computation HiveMind is using up on the system, how much, and also how much time, what the latency is on some of those calls. So how they can affect user experience. Because obviously, if you have to wait 20 or 30 seconds for something to happen, it's on the front end, it's not exactly pleasant.
So which kind of calls are that heavy? I guess it's loading comments and stuff.
Oh, you're talking about what things make it slow?
Yeah, for instance.
It's been a lot of things. One of the predominant things has been missing indexes in the data. So sometimes it has to do sequential searches and things like that.
So I was looking into the post about the decentralized. Very nice, super cool. I was curious, did you envision something for syncing those personal blacklists across API nodes?
Yeah, that's already built in. We don't have to do anything new for there, because so the way we're getting data mostly syncing into HiveMind is sorry, just for a second, guys. I've got a call I've got to take. I'll be back in just a second. Hello? Okay. Okay, I'm back, by the way. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Hello?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys went on to something else, but I think Roland was asking about how we get the the decentralized listings information into HiveMind. So HiveMind normally it basically gets all its data from the blockchain. I guess you guys know that. And so it does that, but maybe everybody doesn't. It basically is querying block data from generally block data from Hive and then the blockchain code. And then that data gets, by those queries, it puts information into the HiveMind database. And so in this case, there's already a call that's called follow, and that follow call gets the data from Hive. And so we've just added, and the follows are implemented using custom JSON, which means that the blockchain code really doesn't know much about them except the sort of the shape of the data. It doesn't know anything about the contents of the data. And this is how we do a lot of things. That's how the Steam Monster guys work, I believe, and it's how follows work, and a lot of other data that just the blockchain consensus doesn't really need to know what it means. And so we're using that follow data, and we've added a new meaning, additional meaning that you can say another type of follow, and that's how we're doing the decentralized lists. So does that answer the question for you, Roland? Or?
Yeah. So in the end, there will be the front ends will inject those new follows into as a custom JSON, and then the updated version of HiveMind interprets that across all the API nodes using the updated HiveMind software, right?
That's exactly right.
Cool. Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. So moving on, I guess the next points are kind of on the updatey proposal modifications. So I guess there is no issue with letting people change their permalink or whatever, but there was a bit of controversy regarding the fee structure, which obviously because it means people pay more. And I wanted your feedback on basically the idea that we could have just a percentage based on how much the proposal is actually asking, with a floor and a ceiling. So
yeah, gotcha. My personal take is I don't think it makes sense to tie into the sum total. I think it should just be the time. And part of that comes out of my belief that the main reason I was asking for this was I just don't want something sitting around in the blockchain state for a long time, consuming computational power, especially if somebody decide to spam it and just fill a lot of that data up. So from my point of view, it's mostly about how long it's in the system that should be the cost, not the amount asked for that should be the cost, that should factor in the cost. I think people themselves will make a decision based on whether the amount is a lot or a little, and that's something humans can decide pretty well themselves. But when you set it up to run for a long time, whether somebody's staring at it or not, the blockchain is grinding over it all the time.
Yeah, I agree. But at the same time, it's not only about the computational part. It's also kind of about, I think there was a point in the comments about AnyX's proposal where it wouldn't make that much sense for him to have one more for each day. And for some people who would like, let's say,
well, I mean, for
day.
something like AnyX's proposal, but I think there's a simple solution. I mean, he just adds $1 for the costs of the time he's going to make it. So if he wants to make it for 6 months or a year or 2 years, whatever, he just adds the time. And again, it puts it back in the human court. Do they want it to last that long? But there was an additional cost that was paid to the blockchain itself, regardless of what people think, because it's going to run longer.
Yeah, I agree. But at the same time, I think it kind of adds. I guess it adds more about the issue with it is that it kind of puts some pressure to people to get funded. But at the same time, it's true that those people could just run 2-month proposals and just carry on with it.
I think it's, if there's a pressure on the proposal about being long, let's make it short at first. And
my general idea about this was just to bundle it into hard fork 24 as is, with aka 1 HBD for each day over 60 days. And if we really notice that there is a significant
problem, That makes sense. We don't have to. The solution we choose now doesn't have to be the one we have forever. That's certainly for true.
Yeah, that's kind of my idea.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
But that also bundles into a broader discussion, which is basically how to discuss how to do controversial changes and how to poll the community.
Yes.
That should kind of easily be done with the proposal system, basically. But because I assume that's the easiest way to poll and have stake-weighted
that's right.
stuff.
I think that's true.
Although that means we might be a bit slow when doing changes. Okay, we have to wait, like, let's say a week, and some people might miss on very important votes. Like, for instance, this change was like bundled in, I think in 3 days that was done. And because we were so close to testnet. Well,
you mean the implementation?
Yeah. I mean, we had one dev call.
But there's been a post out for at least more than a week, right?
Yeah.
So whether I don't know. I mean, I guess we didn't have a vote on it, but it's certainly been out there for a while, and I know there was some discussion of it. I mean, quite a bit of discussion about it. But you're right. I mean, we haven't taken a vote on this. I don't know that it's controversial enough that it's worth a vote at this point. I feel like it had to be something slightly more controversial than this to make.
Yeah, of course.
To be worth that.
But that's the main idea, right? It's like when do we set the bar to set, is this controversial enough to deserve a vote?
Yeah, it's hard to define controversial. I think we'll know it when we see it. I think we've known it when we've seen it before. Generally, anything that seems to be an effect on rewards in general is most likely to be a controversial issue, for instance.
Yeah, sure.
And so I kind of think we know what it is, and I think we know when we probably should run a poll on something. I don't think we're gonna. I think probably what it means is that if there's a controversial issue, we should not bring it up at the near end point of a existing hard fork and expect it to get into that hard fork.
Yeah, true. I feel like we could have like a let's say protocol where we make, well, I mean, whenever we make changes, we usually make posts about it.
Yeah, so I did kind of set up that one community Hive improvement, and my idea was that that would be the place where we'd focus on Hive related changes. Well, which is pretty much what we do, right? But so I kind of assumed that we could talk about ideas there, and so I'm kind of making it a habit now that whenever I suggest a change or even just an idea about maybe we need to work in this area, my plan is to make posts there about it.
Yeah, I guess we could have that, and then see in the replies if how that went.
Yeah.
And then perhaps making. That's
right. So we got a place that anybody who's interested in following this stuff can just will easily know what's going on.
Yeah, true. I'm mostly afraid about like people coming at us and saying, "Oh yeah, it's basically the let's say 20 core devs just making decisions in these kinds of calls," and
yeah, I 100% agree. That's right. That's something we need to be. We need to be conscious of all the time, is that there's a lot of people beyond the devs as stakeholders in the decisions we're making. So yeah, for sure.
This is also where we want to. I kind of wonder how at which point should we involve the Hive.io account or not? Because at some point, if we make something really controversial, we really want everyone to notice it and to notice it to say have to.
I think it should actually be this community is the first step, because it is more open. Anybody can make posts there, and then I feel like Hive.io should be more like, once we've got some kind of decisions on the matter by whether stake-weighted votes or if it's less controversial topics, just discussions and posts, and only then should Hive.io really be making. I guess they could make an announcement that there's a set of posts and it didn't seem like everybody was aware of it. We could also do it through Hive.io, but I don't know that's any different. I mean, it feels like if Hive.io is just another post at the end of the day, so I'm not sure that it has any other impact.
Also, I'm not too sure about the community in the end. I think I'm thinking about it as we speak, and I think perhaps it makes more sense because all of my ideas I've usually been putting them in GitLab, because that's where we can easily. I mean, it's not as open for all.
No, it's not. Most people are not looking at GitLab all the time, and they never will be.
But there's also where you can have the most I mean, whenever I make these bi-weekly meetings, I literally check the issues list from here to input them. So
yeah, I mean, for my mind, GitLab is primarily where developers are sharing ideas. I don't write up my ideas there for the general public. I pretty much write them up in terms of, for another programmer. So I think posts as a separate means always have to be there as well for anything, that's we think would be interesting to other people. Is we have to have posts that are written in very plain language and not in code language.
I guess we could cross post, like just have a general post on the community, and then if people feel like it's a good idea, then we file an issue with a link to that post.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I don't know that it has to be in one order or the other. I think both orders are
true.
fine. Just, I mean, because sometimes I'll throw up a programming idea that wouldn't even want to discuss with normal people until the programming idea itself was vetted. It might be a performance issue, and
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, that's it for that point. Next one is basically while doing the proposal thing, I noticed a slight issue with the way proposals were done. Long story short, the issue is that there is only a permalink field, and that permalink points to either a post from the creator of the proposal or the receiver of the proposal. And there is a slight edge case where if both have the same permalink, then the frontend won't know which post to display. So ideally we should...
So are you saying if they both write a post with the same title?
No, the same permalink.
I didn't think you could repeat a permalink. I thought they were unique.
Oh no, they are unique per author.
Okay, so, I see what you're saying. So to make true uniqueness, you need a unique author and permalink. Okay.
Yeah, precisely.
Got it. Yeah, I guess I did know that from HiveMind. I just hadn't thought about it.
So yeah, basically I found an issue, which means I certainly don't want to push that to 24 because it's super minor. And it's a bit annoying to fix because we have to, for a hard fork, we need to backfill basically all the proposals.
I mean, I guess couldn't it just be simple that we just, without changing the data, couldn't we just do something very simple like default to trying, say, the author first? So for uniqueness. So if it turns, I mean, just we always check to see if the author has a permalink first, and that's the one we use if in that case, and then only then do we check the receiver so that it will always default to the same behavior all the time, and then we wouldn't have to actually include both pieces of information.
Yeah, but then how can a front end actually tell one apart if both are sets? Oh, you mean then you would always pick the author?
Yeah, always use the author. Yeah, I mean there's a slight downside of that, but it's a very slight one, which is somebody could, if it turned out they set it to the receiver, then the author could potentially come in later and put in another permalink with the same, create another permalink for the author afterwards. But that's a really big edge case now.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it depends on if we do want to fix it or not.
Yeah, I think I would say this is kind of a minor issue. I would just say go with always, defaulting to one or the other, and have everything default to the one if there's, so it always tries the one first, and then we don't have to worry about changing any of the data or anything.
I actually don't know how frontends, because I'm fairly sure no frontends actually found out about this, and I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing either.
You can just do the receiver, so I assume most of them did the creator.
Yeah, that would be my guess. Yeah. So it may, from the front end perspective, it may already all be right. We just need to make sure
Yeah, okay, I'll write on the issue will not fix. Oh, first time we use that as a label. Okay, cool. Then that's your issue. The next one. Should we add support for custom keys? So I'm a bit torn on this one. I feel like I guess it would be useful. It's basic for those who don't know. It's basically like custom authorities, but instead you have a specific key for. Let's say you have one key for voting, or you have one key for creating proposals or whatever. And that way you could have a ton of different authorities that you could give to different apps and improve the overall security of the way you manage your keys. But I feel like it's I'm not too sure about the complexity of such feature, and I'm afraid about the added complexity to the end users, basically.
Yeah, well, so let's address both those points. I don't really know the complexity to the system yet. Maybe somebody who's worked in BitShares could probably comment on that better, or EOS for that matter. I mean, I personally haven't worked in either too much. I mean, I know the code level, but not. I don't know how either of these was implemented in either of those systems. We do have some guys on my team who've worked on the EOS implementation and know more about how it works, but I haven't really spoken with them about it a lot. I really threw out this idea more as something we could take a look at over time. So I don't think there's any rush to implement this if we do want to do it, but I just didn't want to forget about it as an idea. So that's my answer is on the first part is I think it's probably not too difficult to do code wise. And I don't think it probably imposes too many limits, but I can't be sure on that point yet. To the second part of it, which is complexity for users, I guess my assumption is this would probably not be as useful for the average person, but it might be more interesting to apps in particular. So say somebody wants to allow to, like you said, wants to create an app for voting on posts, and they would like to do it in such a way that a person doesn't have to give up other rights and worry about safety for anything else except literally voting on posts. Like they don't want to have somebody's identity be stolen and then those keys be used to create posts for that person, for instance. Then I kind of feel like most of the weight's going to be on the app user to sort of ease their customers through the process of getting custom keys and giving them custom keys from that point of view.
Yeah, but I don't really see because I assume to create such keys, you'd have to. I mean, if I were to implement this, I would set it so that you have to have a key that is the
you're going to have to have authority. But what you could do is like create it. So, like a voting app could create an interface that said, here's what you have to do to create this key. And it just has some very simple instructions, do this, and then somebody just follows those instructions. And
my main issue with it is that you don't really gain that much compared to giving authority to someone, except that maybe we could set it up so that.
Well, I mean, for me, that's a big example of what you do gain. Voting versus being able to write posts for somebody could be a huge difference. Yeah, being able to write posts for somebody allows you to almost steal their identity online, right? To some extent.
Yeah, I mean like giving posting authority, like I don't remember the exact name, but that's when it's an op with active where you basically give the rights to certain operation to another account.
I mean,
I feel like that's basically the same.
I'm talking about like the posting key. The posting key allows you both to vote and to write posts, I believe, right? But so that specific key.
Yeah, but you can give like voting authority or authority on whatever operation you want with the give authority operation. I don't remember the exact name, but that's basically it. Except you use your active key and you can give access to certain operation to a third-party account, which can be an app account.
Yeah, I don't really like the way active key is thrown around, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. This is why what I would like to see for that specific operation, which would kind of be like the best of both worlds, kind of, would be that you can give authority to vote with the closest key next to it, so that if you want to give voting, you would need posting key. If you need to give like transfer, well, you should never give transfer.
I think that could certainly make sense. Yeah.
And then you don't have to like handle various keys that you give around. And what's cool about it is that you always have like a trace in the blockchain, and you can revoke whenever you want. And then the application won't have to manage like a database of keys, etc. They just have the one account with the one key, and they can handle stuff with it.
Yeah, I guess they still got to handle the authorities, but yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that would be a good compromise between complexity and.
It's a good idea. I'll have to look into that. Like I said, I kind of threw this one out there as an early idea for just. I don't think this is an urgent one by any means.
Oh, of course, but that's why we are discussing it now. It's just to get the idea out here and just discuss it.
Actually, have you added that thought? You should add that thought to the issue probably.
Yeah, I'm literally writing it down just to not forget afterwards.
Great.
Okay, so next step is, oh yeah, don't vote mana delegation. So that's from a discussion that we had on Slack, I think, or Mattermost. Long story short, nobody's using their don't votes enough. 3 don't votes were a great step. We killed Bitbots thanks to that. But a lot of people don't voted after hard fork 2020 or 21. I can't remember. But anyways, afterwards we kind of stopped voting because even with the right tools like don't vote control, which I did, which allow people to easily trail people, etc., there is still a significant amount of retaliation. And I feel like people are still afraid to put their name next to a don't vote, but they would definitely agree to don't vote well, basically give their don't vote power to someone, which that someone would do. And I really thought for the longest time that this would be useless because the person who gets downvoted can just look up who downvoted mana. But I feel like most people just won't look it up and just go to the people. I mean, if you get downvoted by, let's say, Hive watchers, you won't look who delegated to Hive watchers. You just go and be angry at guilty parties or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I read through those arguments, and I'm sure that's true in a lot of cases. I think part of the issue there is it gets to the point of like, okay, you go look up and you find out that 100 people have delegated voting authority to them. Do you really want to go downvote 100 people?
Yeah, exactly. And this is where it's interesting at this point, because then you basically counter the whole, oh yeah, but I'll get downvoted, or oh, but I don't want my name next to downvotes. And then we basically we win proof of brain, right?
Yeah, I'm of two minds on this. I certainly see that idea, and I think that there does look like there could be some truth to that part, that if it's delegated and there's a bunch of people downvoting you through delegated stake, you might not go after them all. The part I don't like, though, of course, is that it also centralizes all that downvoting power into the hands of the account that's got that downvote power, which can be not so great.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel a similar thing about the whole proxy voting system that we have. I tend to think that proxy voting is very useful convenience for somebody who has a lot of accounts, which, you know, we had a lot of people at the beginning who did because they mined them, and that was kind of the way mining worked. You pretty much had to create multiple accounts to mine. And of course, some people just managed a couple accounts for different business purposes. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of the problems we had before, where we've had systems where somebody basically pays off people to give them their vote, and that's a weakness in our voting system itself. So that's kind of what I don't like about this, is that there is a centralization of power that goes on with this idea as well. I gotta say I'm just torn on it. I don't know. I mean, maybe the benefits outweigh the potential downside. Either I don't know that someone's really going to go out and abuse their downvoting power that they get, and if they do, it does seem like a lot of people could just drop that. But I think if we did something like this, I feel like at the least we need to do something like what we're talking about doing for proxy voting and for voting in general as well, which is put some kind of time limits on it, so that it's you have to renew it to sort of keep saying, yes, I want to do this.
Oh yeah, that's a great point.
Which I guess applies to delegation as well. Normal delegation of voting.
Yeah, that's a broader discussion though. And also then that goes to proxies and stuff, which goes into the whole witness decay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty convinced that we need you know, a decay after some time on votes, witness votes, and I feel like most people are. But yeah, I'm now thinking it should extend to some of these other areas too. Proxying seems like an obvious one, because like proxying is very much like a vote in a lot of ways, right? I mean, yeah, it's kind of the same thing.
I mean, I feel like it's easier to put a time limit on proxies, or I mean, even delegations. Rather, I mean, we could try out like delegations in like one hard fork and try out how that goes for people, and see if like the whole because the whole counter argument to this is always, oh yeah, but people will just set bots and.
Well, it's not only that, right? It's more than they just set. It's they can die.
Yeah, I know. I mean, lots of people already died on the blockchain. It's been 5 years now.
Yeah, it happens. So we know this is and yeah, people die, they lose their keys. There's all kinds of things, and then we have stake out there that's doing things that's not really under the control of the person who owns the stake anymore.
But yeah, coming back to the downvote part and decentralization, I feel like it's still quite interesting to try out, just because my problem with proof of brain is that it's great on paper, but so far it really hasn't really worked in the reality, because there is the whole human part of it. And
yeah, unfortunately, that's necessary for it too.
the brain part. But yeah, that also goes to the discussion where so it's hard to handle like automated voting and stuff.
Yeah, I think it probably is a worthwhile experiment.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's probably controversial enough we should throw it up to a vote, but yeah,
Oh yeah, definitely.
I guess personally, I think it's worth a try. I suppose.
Yeah,
see what happens.
I mean, especially after the huge voting on people in witnesses, where basically the top 20 is. I don't think that the top 20 is going to change for a year or more, because there was such a gap.
Sorry.
I don't.
Oh, you're talking about you mean the top witnesses?
Yeah.
I think that could change a lot shortly, to be honest. I mean,
you have any insight of that?
Well, I mean, I guess there's two factors that I feel like have enforced that right now. The situation we had. I mean, we know we had everybody voting just to the top 20 just to maintain the safety of the blockchain or trying to fight the blockchain's control, I guess, rather, really. And now I feel like everybody, or at least a lot of people, I certainly am one that still wants the stake to be high at the moment until we get the decay voting in there. So that, I mean, not the decay voting, but the delay on voting time, so that someone can't attack just by using exchange stake that's been sitting out there in non-vested state, suddenly vest it. So, but with that in place, I personally certainly will probably change a lot of votes just because to spread them out more, and I assume other people will as well. And then, of course, the other factor I think is I do think we ought to get decay voting in there as well before long. I really wouldn't have minded getting into this one if we just didn't have so many other things to do, but I feel like the next hard fork we should get that in, and I think that'll also be a disruptive force with time. I guess it'll take some time, depends on what kind of time interval we set on it, but because I feel like there probably is a bunch of dead stake voting right now, and especially for the older witnesses like me. So once that happens, I'm sure we'll lose some stake.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, that whole. But yeah, definitely not for 24. I think it's like such a controversial change that. And
do you mean the decay voting? I'm not sure it's that controversial. I got a feeling. I mean, yeah, I could be surprised when it's something we should do a vote on, but I bet there's going to be very little controversy on the idea of doing it. The only, I guess, what you might be saying, there could be controversy on the implementation, but
yeah,
my guess is not a huge one, even on that. So the only thing is there might be people might want more done beyond that. I mean, there's been talk of changing the number of votes for that someone's able to cast for witnesses, for instance.
Yeah, to cast. Well, more or less, or there is the whole idea.
Usually it's less, I think.
Yeah.
Which makes perfect sense. I'm not sure adding more really changes too much.
Yeah, it just adds to the inflation of the top spots, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, the top spot threshold. Yeah, but I guess this is more for hard fork 25. I feel like hard fork 25 will be one of the biggest ones this year, because there is so much stuff we want to do, and we won't be like rushed.
Yeah, I think feature-wise it will be. I actually think this is quite a huge release, and I don't think people are going to really realize that. But under the covers, what we're doing performance-wise and things, I think it's going to have a tremendous impact. But from from visible feature perspective, of course, there'll be a lot more changes in the next hard fork, I think.
Yeah, because next hard fork we might have SMTs. We could have a lot of APIs would go to HiveMind.
I mean, if we make a lot of API changes, that could be. I mean, we may just find just biting off too much to take too many API changes at once too, because That's my only doubt about making a lot of API changes at once, because if we actually add new functionality, of course, it's not just the blockchain code, it's also all the front ends and things like that. And this time we're just making relatively few, and I still think front ends are going to be, under pressure to make those admittedly small changes, just because there are a bunch of front ends and there's a bunch of devs that are all very decentralized, working separately. I mean, I don't even know if we've got at this point, I don't know if all the libraries have even caught up to the chain ID change. And that's been out there for a couple of weeks.
I actually don't know.
Yeah, I don't. It's something we're going to have to find out pretty soon. But
I know
I guess with the test, yeah, several are.
This team, Hive is, I think, and Hive.js
yeah, so
isn't.
Probably the three best known ones are, I think, but I don't know if all of them are.
Yeah, Transmitter isn't. Yeah, but I feel like at this point it's when you have all of the known ones, because right now there is no pressure to adapt to it. When there will be a testnet and they'll know, like,
yeah,
oh yeah, in 3 weeks we update.
That's what I was getting ready to say. I assume this week with the testnet coming out, that'll kind of put the pressure on more, and we'll get a yay from everybody as far as support goes on that.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so second to last, there was a discussion around increasing the max vote changes. Basically, when you vote, you invote or set like a vote to lesser or more percentage. Right now it's set to a maximum of 5, and it's from Madi Yari, which wanted to increase it basically, or even remove the limitation.
Is this how much of your voting power that you can? I mean, I haven't opened up this issue.
Oh yeah, the whole thing where you change your whole thing and the voting power is like subtracted.
Okay, so this would allow you to vote with more power than you had previously, or something else?
No, it's just it's like just
changing.
changing
Votes. Oh, yeah. So you mean voting positive and negative, changing your vote on a particular say post more than once.
Yeah, right now you can change your vote 5 times, and after that the blockchain tells you no.
I did not know there was such a limit.
Yeah, I bumped into it a few times. But yeah, basically it was set in hard fork 5, and apparently it was just like thrown around and left it there.
So what's the use case for when you need to vote more than 5 times?
He did not mention it. He's just saying, I'm building a tool app which needs to change the vote more than 5 times. I guess we can ask more details about it. But quite frankly, the RC is paid anyways.
Yeah, okay. Like... So the question is, I guess, why was there a 5 limit anymore? Yeah, exactly. Was it just... Yeah, so if there's no good reason for the limit, then we could just get rid of it, right?
So there was a Steemit blog at the time, but I don't think there was really any mention on the limit.
So probably we can look at the code. We can probably ask around too and see if we can find what was the
original post mentioned to prevent certain kinds of abuse, you may only change your vote 5 times. But of course, they did not mention which kind of abuse.
What the abuse was. Yeah, I'd say it's probably worth an ask to see if we can get an answer on that. And it may just be RC may have solved that form of abuse. Yeah.
I wonder if it's RC or just stuff where you pretend you vote and then you don't vote also. Yeah,
I mean, if who's going to watch for your vote 5 times? That would take some really patient people.
Yeah, I don't really see what abuse you would. Perhaps it was done before your creation rewards were reset when you vote, when you change your vote.
Yeah, I don't know. I just have no idea.
Yeah, but that's where it's interesting to have a discussion about the idea where changing your vote shouldn't cost your whole voting power.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of like that change, actually. I don't know if it's worth implementing, but at least at a conceptual level, it sounds nice.
Yeah, I think it's just quality of life, where one person will just misclick and then you literally lose money for one misclick, which is kind of a shame. And I really don't think it would be that hard to implement. It's literally one more.
Probably
fetch.
Not.
Yeah, one more fetch and then difference. Yeah, I guess yes, that's about it. Okay, so that's cool. Final thing. It's from I'm Watsi. That's one dev whom we haven't had many contacts with, but he's working on Hive Mind, and basically he wants to know how he can get more involved with Hive Mind, Juicy, or Hive Python, and if there are any priorities that he can tackle.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen his posts and his issues in GitHub, and we certainly can use some help in Hive Mind. I haven't talked to him about it, and I haven't really encouraged anyone to work in Hive Mind because we were doing a huge amount in Hive Mind, and I was afraid that there was just going to be a lot of conflicts at this point. But with this hard fork out of the way, in terms of coding on Hive Mind, I certainly would welcome, and I'll do what I can to help him. I'll certainly come up with some ideas, and I'm hoping other people will too, for things to do in Hive Mind. He looked like he had some ideas too. I just didn't want to encourage anybody to do anything right now because I was afraid that, especially with the rebranding changes are kind of meant to almost cause conflicts if someone tries to do any work right now, unfortunately.
Yeah,
We've literally changed a huge number of the queries for restructure the way they're written because the performance issues, and then just changing the names of everything and all that kind of stuff is just going to make a mess of conflicts. But yeah, I want to change the development feel should change a lot after this hard fork. We've had to be, unfortunately, necessarily more secretive than we liked during this first one.
Yeah, I feel like this is a bit about the this is kind of a red flag where we should have always ready tasks. I'd like to have like issues where it's like for beginners or for newcomers.
Well, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that would be really cool to have like at least a few easy ones that we low-hanging fruits that we experience, quote unquote, agree not to take, so that newcomers can come and get.
Yeah, and I've tried to throw out a couple of those occasionally, but yeah, we can certainly do a lot more on that. And I just didn't really want to encourage any newcomers working on Hive Mind or the blockchain code this time around because I just thought, it's gonna be a mess.
By the way, speaking of Juicy, did you or your team had some time to check out how to replace it?
No, we haven't yet. I mean, we have ideas, but we've had no one to work on it other than, we're using it. So we're using it to collect the performance data right now, for instance.
Yeah.
And we've done some experiments with, performance improvement by messing with Nginx on the back end and things like that. But no, it's an idea to replace it entirely. That's not something we wanted to tackle in this hard fork at all. So
yeah, of course. So it was, I think it was on the very first dev meeting, someone commented, I don't remember who it was, perhaps Riverhead, but basically it was an old, oh no, it was a theoretical bit. And he said Jesse was meant to be a development proxy and shouldn't be used at something different than that.
Okay.
So yeah, and he was like, yeah, that makes sense to replace it.
Okay. I always thought it was intentional by Sneak, but yeah, some of our guys have suggested commercial things that like Envoy as a replacements, but I have not dug into any of those details myself. So
yeah, I guess it's low priority for now, but will be. Anyways, that's about it for this week. Do you guys have any other things to mention?
No, I think it's gonna be a busy week though for all of us. So
well, I guess we'll see each other probably soon when testnet is up, and then we'll discuss more things.
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah, okay. Well, see you around.
Bye, everyone.